Soulmates, we're about in the middle of the break for those of you who have like the last week of the year off. Happy Wednesday to you, December 28th, the third day of Kwanzaa. Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. We are honored to stand right here behind the desk each day to take you on a journey across Black America and the stories that impact our people, especially during this Kwanzaa week.
That's right. You should know the deal by now. And if you don't, we want to let you know we're bringing you our news, our views, and our voice. So let's look at some of today's top headlines. New data from the state of New Jersey shows that there is a significant decline in the number of overdose deaths in the state. However, the numbers show that Black residents, especially those over the age of 55, are disproportionately affected by the lingering problem of deadly overdoses. Now, the data shows in 2022, white people, who make up about 70% of the population, are expected to make up just over half of overdoses. Black folks, who comprise about 12% of the population, comprise 28% of drug fatalities. People over the age of 55 also comprise a growing share of deaths, nearly doubling from 16% in 2015 to 31% in 2022.
The man who shot and wounded Lady Gaga's dog walker while stealing her French bulldogs last year took a plea deal and will serve 21 years in prison. James Howard Jackson, one of 3 men and 2 accomplices who participated in the violent robbery and its aftermath, pleaded no contest to 1 count of attempted murder. Police say the Lady Gaga connection was a coincidence. The motive was the value of the French bulldogs, a breed that can run into the thousands of dollars. And detectives, they just don't believe the thieves knew the dog belonged to the musician.
There's a new survey from the Pew Research Center finding that 1 in 4 U.S. parents struggle to pay for the family's basic needs. Now, among low-income parents, more than half do not have enough money to pay for food or rent or mortgage payments, and more than 1 in 3 also struggle to pay for health care and child care in the past 12 months. That's according to the survey, which was conducted in September and October. Low-income parents also were the most likely to report being worried about losing pay or losing their job if they had to miss work due to child care issues.
2 Ethiopians are suing Facebook's parent company Meta over hate speech they say was allowed and even heated rhetoric over their country's deadly Tigray conflict. Former Amnesty International human rights researcher Fashea Tekel is one petitioner in the case filed Wednesday, and the other is the son of university professor Miraj Amari, who was killed weeks after posts on Facebook inciting violence against him. The lawsuit, also backed by Kenya-based legal organization, the Katiba Institute, seeks the creation of a $1.6 billion fund for victims of hate speech. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
But it underscores how much of a problem this is. I mean, you know, issues related to misinformation disinformation, issues related to hate speech online are growing exponentially. It was only a few weeks ago, right here on Fox Soul's Black Report, that we reported that that anti-Black sentiment on Twitter and other social media platforms had grown to, I think, somewhere over 500%. Anti-LGBTQ sentiment up, you know, over 100%. And so there is an influx in hate speech online, and it's interesting that of all places, we're seeing our folks in the motherland saying, hey, you know, you need to set aside some funds to really do something about this.
And to broaden that conversation, when you just talk about social media, they're catching it right now, because not only are we talking about, you know, hate-filled messages, we're also talking about, you know, contesting and challenges that are going on that unfortunately are resulting in the death of our young people. I know Instagram and Twitter that we mentioned have cases ongoing where parents are fighting back because of how negatively social media has either influenced their child and in some cases, like bullying, has resulted in their child taking their life. So social media has got to figure some things out.
Yeah, that's right. And if they don't figure it out, it's on Congress
to
help them to figure it out. Just saying.
All right, a U.S. Navy hospital ship docked in southwest Haiti has temporarily suspended medical services after 19 people with the mission fell overboard amid a heavy swell hitting the Caribbean region. All 19 were pulled back onto the small boat, which was then lifted by a crane onto the ship. The usual process is for personnel to use a water taxi and step onto a ladder to board the ship, but the heavy surf made that impossible. Officials say 2 people were injured but are expected to recover. Officials are also trying to figure out how to continue the mission while ensuring safety.
Vice President Kamala Harris says she plans to work with Congress to fund a U.S. government investment of more than $100 million in the Young African Leaders Initiative. She made the announcement at the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. As part of this expansion and in collaboration with partners, USAID will create the Young African Leaders Exchange, the first Pan-African virtual platform that will enable the diaspora and other key stakeholders to connect directly with nearly 28,000 YALI alumni from 49 sub-Saharan countries since YALI was launched in 2010. Now, the exchange will promote networking, strengthen the role of mentors and coaches, showcase initiatives, enhance women and marginalized youth's leadership, and support young African leaders to access grant or internship opportunities.
And speaking of grants, there's a new initiative by Google providing grants and support for organizations developing Black software engineers, developers, and designers. Tech Equity Collective is an initiative started by Google to accelerate Black representation and genius in the tech industry. The initiative is partnering with the Black community over with other tech companies and organizations to create holistic pathways for Black tech innovators. Google has joined forces with Goody Nation for this project and will distribute $1 million in those grants. Again, another project that is good to see, that is on the agenda, that speaks of inclusion and recognition. I just want them to keep that same energy, you know, from year to year, decade to decade, as this Black genius in tech continue to rise and stay supported.
And between the Google story and the story related to young African leaders, it's great to see the private sector and the government stepping up in some pretty significant ways, investing in Black leaders across the diaspora. The Young African Leaders Initiative, investing in leaders, across the diaspora, and Google investing in Black young people in tech right here at home. I think that's the kind of energy we need to keep going. I know we've reported on a number of layoffs in the tech industry and other industries, and we've got to be wary about that, but it should not take us away from being able to invest in the very communities that we want to do business with.
That's right, and supporting the future.
Absolutely. Well, on to the sports community, where in Seattle, they're honoring a community legend who has always had a smile for those he encountered. His name is Chris Brannon, AKA the Sonics guy, and his family and friends say he was the heart of his community. Take a look.
He was on TV, he was on newspapers, he was around all the time, so it was almost like having your own local celebrity that lived right here in town. This is where he ran. He ran on 6th Avenue. He would watch the baseball games in 6th Avenue or the football games that he couldn't go see physically. You couldn't not notice who the guy was.
Giant man, full Sonics gear, huge afro. He'd always have a sign.
I feel like he was hiding behind the sign a lot of the times.
I said, Chris, you're the sign, brother. You don't need to carry a sign around anymore. Everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, open doors. He was the Sonic guy, and everybody knew it.
Save our Sonics! Save our Sonics!
I see a lot of people in green and gold. I see a lot of people I would call my brother or my sister. I see we're one big happy Sonics family.
Save our Sonic!
If you're going to do something in life, leave your mark.
We are only 10 votes away from bringing NBA basketball back to Seattle.
And he did leave his mark.
I'm really happy. We're moving in the right direction. We're halfway there.
He helped the community in that simple belief: don't ever give up.
Bring the NBA back to Seattle, back where it belongs.
That's right.
Bring them back.
The Sonics never came back. But that didn't deter him from continuing his purpose.
He wasn't just a guy holding a sign going everywhere. It opened doors for him to influence. It wasn't just pushing the Sonics, it was the fact that he had a big heart for community. He was there for people. That's another thing that a lot of people don't know about Chris. The Sonic guy, you know, he's got his sign, he's got his fame. But when Chris saw somebody in need or help, he was there. If there's one thing that Chris taught me, it was to believe.
He'd always have me draw him on the sidewalk in chalk. He's like, I need a mural, I need a mural. Like right now, the light is hitting the bricks so you can really see the texture.
In his eyes. You know, it looks like he's staring right at you. It's a fun ride, brother. It's a fun ride.
We finally got him the mural, but he's not here to see it.
I just remember falling on the ground and trying to accept it, you know? I parked right here late in the evening, and I just stared at it like, hey, you know, like, I miss you, buddy.
He's always had like a heart condition that he was battling. Like it had started getting worse.
Called him up, and he said, hey, I'm not feeling good today. Went over, knocked on the door, and I realized immediately that he was in trouble. I said, you going to the hospital? Got to get you in there, brother. He said, give me a second. And he walked back in the house, put on his Sonics gear, put his pick in his hair, and then he got in the car. So then I took him to the emergency room, and we know the rest of the story.
We recognize, Master, that you already know how heavy some hearts are, the emotions that some of us are experiencing even right now.
He was so present to us in so many places. He became part of us. He became part of our heart.
Chris Brannon was the most authentic, kind soul that I'll ever meet. I don't know, I just miss him.
Everybody wanted to shake his hand. Everybody wanted a picture. We would just take a few steps and it's like, hey, Sonic Sky, can I get a picture? And he always said yes.
He gave that person enough time to feel important and to feel special.
He's the #1 example in my life that good guys do win, and that kindness has a strength to it that shouldn't be denied.
If we could just lead a Supersonics cheer for Chris, that'd be great.
Super!
Super! I hope we can hear you up there. Cheers, Chris.
Let's all face Chris. We're all facing this way. We're all facing the stage.
There's a song that says, if anybody ever write my life story, I hope that they would say, I tried to help somebody. And that is the epitome of the life of Chris. And if we really want to keep his legacy alive, put a shirt on, put a hat on, and turn around and keep turning until God show you somebody that you can help. And when that person asks you, what made you help me? Nod the Sonics hat and say it was because of Chris.
Amen.
Oh.
Friends say Brannon admitted that people probably thought he was nuts for how hard he went for Seattle, but says it was always for the love of the game and the community.
No, not nuts at all. I think people like that are sent here as messengers, you know, and if you look back on that piece, he was about unity and hope and validation. He validated people, taking time out to, you know, shake hands and take pictures. Yeah, it was predicated on the whole Sonic guy thing, but just his the humanitarian aspect of this is just far-reaching. And I don't know whether to shed a tear or cheer for the Sonics. I remember we called them Seattle Supersonics back in the day, and there was a player, and I'm sure Brandon would know this player, Sean Kemp. He was a beast. So I remember the Seattle Supersonics, and I forgot that they didn't have an NBA team anymore. They left on out of there. So I'm hoping in his memory that one day the NBA will return to Seattle.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that really jumped out at me from that story was the joy that he carried with him and the joy that he spread among anybody that encountered him, anybody and everybody. And you know, it just comes also as a cautionary tale that, you know, cardiovascular related diseases sort of take that joy away. We know that in the Black community, that issues related to cardiovascular health are some of the leading causes of death in our community. And so soulmates, you know, be sure to take care of yourself and make sure that you're keeping an eye on your health and all of that, because I know we all feel like that was another life that was just gone too soon.
Just an amazing story, though, on the other side of that.
Yeah. Well, still ahead, one well-known pastor is making headlines on social media after a portion of his sermon sparked some controversy in the community.
We'll tell you who it is and what they said coming up after the break. Stay with us. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Oh, Lord. Lord.